Good afternoon. This is week 9, day 63, post-rotator cuff surgery for me. In this video, I'll show you some big changes you might expect on week 9. And I have another tip for you at the end of this video.
Shine bright up all night, we're never slowing down. Fall in love, drunk mistakes, we're bound to hit the ground.
We're all different, just like our procedures, recoveries, underlying health conditions, and many other variables. The recovery schedule my healthcare team has me on is a pretty typical average. My week 2 might be your week 6. Your week 5 might be my week 9. No matter what pace we're on, you can use these videos as a guide of what you might expect next in your recovery. As one example, if your week 11 is my week 7, you can preview what your week 13 might be like by checking out the video for week 8. All of these videos have been created for you to get an idea of what to expect for your recovery. Last week, at the end of week 8, my physical therapist did a passive range of motion test on me to make sure I was where I needed to be after 2 weeks of assisted active range of motion. After the exam, I finally received the clearance to start active range of motion. Yeah. My PT has a protocol he developed for active range of motion, which he took me through. Shh, don't let him know I'm telling you. He designed it to be simple, yet effective with 5 movements. He also added some additional mobility work, which I will describe later in this video. If these videos have helped you or you think they may help others, like and subscribe. It helps get this information out to others who need it. The first thing my physical therapist asked me to do was to raise my arm over my head. What? That was a tall task, but I was bound and determined to get that arm over my head. It was very uncomfortable, and it wasn't easy, but I did it. After getting off the struggle bus, he gave me a long stick and he showed me what my next week was going to look like. The 5 exercise protocol is front raises with a bar, overhead presses with a bar, upright rows with a bar, side raises, no bar, horizontal abduction, no bar. Before I go into the progression of these movements with prescribed sets and reps, let's make sure everyone understands what unbroken means in the physical therapy and exercise world. Unbroken simply means no breaks in an exercise. In other words, continuous movements with no rest on a prescribed set of repetitions. For example, if I'm prescribed 10 reps but do 3 and then rest, I've broken my set of 10. I personally broke several times on each set when I first started. If I'm prescribed a set of 10 repetitions on overhead press with a PVC, going unbroken means doing all 10 reps of that movement without stopping or resting. It's totally normal and expected to break on sets when first beginning just about any new movement. My initial set and rep scheme was to get 1 set of 10 unbroken reps on each movement. I was allowed to do these movements up to twice daily, so I did them twice daily. I broke 2 or 3 times on each movement before I got to my 10 reps. My shoulder was more achy and stiff after that first day of doing something new. It took me about 2 to 3 days to get 10 unbroken reps on each exercise. After finally getting 1 set of 10 unbroken reps, the next prescribed goal was to get 1 set of 15 unbroken reps on each exercise. It took me another day or so to work up to doing 1 set of 15 unbroken reps on each of the 5 exercises. Once I could do 1 set of 15 unbroken reps on every exercise, guess what my next prescribed goal was? Yup, 2 sets of 15 unbroken reps on every exercise. I was able to accomplish this on day 4, but once again, it was at the cost of being more achy and stiff for the remainder of that day. Yesterday, I woke up and my shoulder felt great again. So I implemented the next phase of my prescribed physical therapy and did 3 sets of 15 unbroken reps of all of those movements. That afternoon, I was more achy and stiff again. This morning, my shoulder felt great again. It wasn't easy, it took work, and I had to take baby steps. I applied all 3 of the tips I gave you in last week's video, which you can see by clicking the card in this corner or the link in the description below, or searching the channel for the week 8 video. Applying those 3 tips really helped me once again this week. I kept those shoulders packed, which made the movements more comfortable. Yep, expect a lot of discomfort at the least. I experienced some sharp pains again, but just like I explained in last week's video, the discomfort dissipated as I progressed over the week. I did one easy thing that helped the discomfort even more, which I'll explain later in the video. I continued to use those mini sessions, gently moving and stretching only. No surprise, it helped a lot. Yesterday, I did an experiment. I did my 3 sets of 15 reps on all movements, followed by mobility. But this time, I didn't do any mini sessions. My shoulder felt so bad because I had just sat there all day. It was really stiff and achy. Finally, about midnight, I broke down and I did a longer mini session. My shoulder felt so much better afterwards. Those mini sessions really help a lot. Yep, I had a roller coaster ride all week long. When my shoulder felt great, that was a sign I could push it a little harder that day. Sometimes after pushing more, it would feel achy that evening or the next morning. When that was the case, I held the same intensity and set rep scheme until my shoulder felt good again. Once I felt good again, I would push into the next level of intensity on my reps and sets. I rinsed and repeated that process, which got me where I am today. My physical therapist also prescribed mobility as follows: standing shoulder internal rotation. I did several variations with a towel, a band, a stick, and arm only. Lying shoulder internal rotation. Cross body stretch. Active external rotation. I personally added the following movements: overhead rings into flexion, child's pose, wrist curls. I find that getting my arms over my head regularly, like with the child's pose or the rings, helps me a bunch. I'm doing wrist curls because I've been having issues with my wrist after being in the sling so long. I'm also finding my biceps tenonesis repair elicits far more discomfort and is less mobile than my rotator cuff repairs. I added bench press for the movement and especially the stretch it puts on my biceps tendon in a narrow grip. When you get to this point in your therapy, keep using those 3 tips I gave you last week. But here's another tip. Tip number 4. Warm up before starting therapy. This may seem really obvious, but most people just don't do it. Getting warmed up before each session was super helpful. I did mobility first, then I used a pulley or a stick to do an easy version of some of those movements I would be doing in my session. The same mini session movements I did last week. Athletes warm up before a game because it helps them perform better and it makes them way less prone to injury. The same is absolutely true for physical therapy. When I go into doing my movements without warming up, I have a lot more issues. When I warm up, it makes the PT session go a lot better. Amazing. That's all I've got for you. See you next week.